are you ready, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, I'm ready.
And Rosna, the recording started, so you can proceed, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Very good morning to all. Greetings from St. Xavier's Catholic College of Engineering. So this is the fourth day of the workshop on web programming, which was jointly organized by the Department of Computer Science Engineering and Information Technology of St. Xavier's Catholic College of Engineering. So I would like to welcome the coordinator of the program, Dr. R.P. Andromasa, the resource person, Ms. A. Anisha, and the organizing team members, Mr. C.M. Raijo sir and Anthony sir. And also I welcome all the participants from various colleges, especially the students and also the staff members. So I welcome you all for this fourth day of the workshop. So I just give a recap of this program. So the first day we have seen HTML and also the tags which is available in HTML version 5. And in the second day we have seen cascading style sheet. And yesterday we had a JavaScript. So JavaScript introduction, the concepts which is very basic in JavaScript like operators, functions, string operations, etc. So today we have the advanced concepts in JavaScript as well as HTML. So today our resource person is Mrs. A. Anisha, faculty of Computer Science and Engineering, St. Xavier's Catholic College of Engineering. So yesterday itself I have introduced her. So now I hand over the session to Anisha ma'am. Welcome Anisha ma'am.
Thank you, Andros ma'am. Good morning to all participants. So in yesterday's session, we have gone through the basics of JavaScript, like how to create a JavaScript program, how to execute it, and basics of operators, variables, and how to create a function, how to create an array, and how to create a function, how to create objects and classes again, and how to implement inheritance. And also we have discussed how to use the inbuilt objects, and we have seen about event handling too. Today we'll move on to document object model. DOM stands for document object model, and it is an API using which we can access and manipulate the entire contents of a HTML document. Right? It is possible to find, that is, access and manipulate the contents of each and every content of an HTML document. And DOM models or describes the entire HTML document as a tree. And as you all know, tree consists of a set of nodes. In a DOM tree, the elements or the contents of a HTML document are nodes, right? And through those nodes, we can access and manipulate the HTML, each and every HTML elements of that document. Also, we can perform event handling too, right? And coming to nodes of a DOM tree, a DOM tree contains these following type of nodes: document node, element node, text node, and other nodes. Document node is a root node which represents the entire HTML document, and element node represents an HTML element. HTML element means a tag, and an element node may have child nodes too, right? And those child nodes can be either another element node or it can be text node. Also, element nodes can have attributes. And text node, each and every text, free form text of a HTML document is represented as a text node. And there are other nodes such as comment node and attribute node, which represents comments and attributes associated with the HTML document. Coming to properties of DOM node, every DOM node has certain properties. The first property is node name. Node name will contain the name of the node, and this property is read only. We cannot modify the value of this node name property. And for an element node, the node name is a tag itself. For example, for a paragraph element, the name is P. Right? For a heading one, H1 element, it is H1. And for a document node, it is hash document. The node name will be hash document. And for text node, it is hash text. The second property is node value. Node value represents the value of the node. And considering an element node, its node value will be undefined. Right? And for a text node, the node value will be the actual text present within the node. And third property is a node type. And this node type is an integer value which represents the type of a node. Example, element node, the node type is 1, and for attribute node it is 2, and for text it is 3, for comment it is 8, and for document it is 9. And there is another property, parent node. Parent node refers to the parent of a particular node in the DOM tree. And in a node structure, in a DOM tree structure, there can be only one parent for a particular node. Right? And there is another property, child nodes. And DOM tree node can have any number of children. Right? So this child nodes is an array which represents the set of all children of a particular node. And there are other two properties, first child and last child. First child refers to the first child of a particular node, and last child refers to the last child of a particular node. And we have two more properties, previous sibling and next sibling. As you all know, sibling means children of the same parent. Right? So previous sibling refers to the previous sibling of a particular node, and next sibling refers to the next sibling of a particular node. Right? And this is a sample HTML document and its corresponding DOM tree. Right? So the root of the DOM tree will be document. Root of the DOM tree will be document node, and its child will be document element, which is the HTML tag. Right? And see this document, the HTML tag contains two parts, right? Head and body. Right? So HTML element has two children, head and body. Right? Coming to head part has only one child, title. So element head, the node represents the element head, has only one child, title. And title has only one child, DOM tree, which is a text node. So title has a child, text node. Coming to body part has three children. No, it's two children, H2 and paragraph tag. Right? So body part has two children, H2 and paragraph tag. H2 tag has two children. That is, it has attribute nodes, attribute values. Also, it has a text node. Right? So H2 has two children. That is text node and then attribute node. And coming to paragraph tag has one child, welcome to, which is a text node. Another child, italics element, and another child, a text with dot, dot, dot. Text node with dot, dot, dot. So paragraph element has three children, a text node, another italic node, another text node. And italic element has only one text node, which is JavaScript. Right? So every HTML element will be modeled as a DOM tree by DOM. Right? So this is a sample for a DOM tree. Now coming to document object. Document object is a root of a DOM tree. And using this document object, we can access all the elements of a particular HTML document. And there are certain properties associated with the document object. First, it is document element, body, and title. A document element represents the HTML tag, body property represents the body tag, and title property represents title tag. And there are other set of properties, last modified, referrer, cookie, and domain. So these are the informations which are retrieved from response header. And there are other set of properties, form array, applets array, images array, embeds array, links array, and anchors array. Each of this array is used to access all the elements within that particular tag. For example, using the form array, we can access all the fields or all the contents of the form tag, right? And the document object has certain methods too. First method is write, that we are already using it to write something to a current browser window. And clear, there is a method clear which is used to clear the document. And open and close is used to open the document stream, which is used to read and write the contents of a browser window. And there are other three important methods: get element by ID, get elements by name, and get elements by tag name. These methods are used to identify elements within an HTML document. The first method is get element by ID. This method is used to find an element based on its ID. Right? ID, the value of ID must be unique to every element. So we can identify a particular element based on ID using get element by ID method. Second method is get elements by name method, and more than one element can have the same name. So get elements by name method can identify multiple elements based on its name. So this method will return an array of elements. And third one is get elements by tag name. That is, tag name will be the name of the element, right? Based on a tag name, we can identify multiple elements, right? This method again return an array. And now coming to a property called as inner HTML, right? Inner HTML is a property with document object, and it is used to access all the content of an element, right? If you provide, that is, if you take an element based on this inner HTML property, we can access all the contents, even nested tags and text, everything within a HTML element, right? Now let us consider this simple example. Here in our page, we have a paragraph tag with ID as P1 with some text welcome, and we have two H1 elements with the same name HH1, and the first H1 element has a text node heading 1, and second H1 tag has heading 2 as text, and we have a button 2, right? When you click on this button, you're going to execute a function named display under script, right? So what we are going to do here is we'll identify the paragraph element during execution, and you are going to change the contents of the paragraph element. Here the content of paragraph element is welcome. You're going to modify it as hello, good morning, right? So to identify an element, to access the contents of an element, first we have to identify it, right? To identify it, we can use three methods: either get element by ID, or get elements by name, or get elements by tag name. Here you're going to identify the paragraph element based on its ID, right? So document.getElement by ID of P1, it will return a reference to this paragraph element, right? And to modify the contents of this paragraph element, I can use the inner HTML property, right? And I'm writing the statement a.inner.html equal to hello, good morning, which will modify welcome to hello, good morning, right? And next, I'm going to access or select elements by name of HH1, right? I'm going to find elements by name of HH1. So this method will find all the elements with the name HH1 and returns its reference to variable B. So in our browser, we have two heading elements with the name HH1, right? So the value of B will be an array, right? Since there are two H1 elements with the name HH1, the value of B will be an array. So as we have seen in yesterday's session, to access through an array, we need a for loop, right? So for variable I equal to 0, I less than B dot length. The B dot length will be the number of elements within this array, and I'm accessing each element. B of I dot inner HTML equal to new heading. That is, I'm going to change the content of first heading element, second heading element. That is heading 1 and heading 2 to new heading. Right? Now let us execute this code in Fiddle. Open Fiddle, copy the contents of script under, do not copy the script tag, only the contents of script, paste it in the location where you can execute the JavaScript. And again here we have HTML contents too. Copy the contents of HTML part and copy it to the HTML tab. Let's save it and execute it. Right. So here when the initial content of your browser window will be a paragraph element welcome and two heading elements, H1 elements, heading 1 and heading 2. And I have a button 2 with value click. And when I click on this function, button, I am invoking a function named display. Right. So when I click on this button, the content of paragraph is changed to hello, good morning, and contents of H1, both H1 elements are changed into new heading. Right? So this program illustrates the use of inner HTML property and selecting or identifying elements by ID and name. Similarly, we can select elements by tag too. Can make a try. Can you visualize the output? Okay then. So this is an example of identifying elements and modifying the contents by using inner HTML property. Let us move to the next part. So this is sample pages, initial page and after the page after pressing click button. Coming to text node. Text node, that is every free form text within a HTML document is represented as a text node. And this text node cannot have any child node. And to retrieve the text content of a text node, you can use the property node value. Right? The node value for a text node returns the text, all the text contained within that particular node. Right? So we'll see an example. Here we have a paragraph element with ID P1 and content welcome. And we have a button 2. And when you click on the button, we are executing a function display. Right? So using this display function, you're going to identify the text node under paragraph element and you're going to modify the value, node value of this text node to another text. Right? So to access an element, again, what you have to do first, we have to select that element. Right? So here we are selecting that element by ID. What is the ID of paragraph? It is P1. Right? So document.getElement by ID of P1 will return a reference to the paragraph element. And as you can see, paragraph element has only one child. Right? Welcome. Right? So we have a property called as first child. First child will refer to the first child of a particular node. So since paragraph element has only one node, it will be the first child. The text node welcome will be the first child of paragraph element. So A dot, A means the reference to paragraph element dot its first child, which will refer the text node welcome, and you have to modify the value, that is dot node value. Right? The text contained with the text within the text node is represented by a property called as node value. So A dot first child dot node value equal to, it is modified to hello, good morning. Right? So let us execute the code in Fiddle, copy the script code. The script part and copy the HTML code to the HTML part. Save and execute the code. So initially, you'll have a paragraph with value welcome. When you click on this button, it gets changed to hello, good morning. Make a try. Can you visualize the output? Okay. So let us move to the next part. So another example for a text node. Here we have a paragraph element with a child italic element. An italic element has a child text node. Right? How to access the text node which is nested within multiple tags. Right? So you have a property child nodes too. Right? You can do this through first child property. You can also use this child nodes property. Child nodes is an array which represent the children of a particular node. Right? So here to access welcome and modify it, first what you have to do, you have to identify the paragraph element. Right? So document.get element by id of p1. Right? So it refers. So it returns a reference to paragraph element and paragraph element dot child nodes of 0. Right? 0 means it will refer to the first child. So if you have more children, child nodes of 1 will refer to the second child and so on. Right? So child nodes of 0 will represent italic element and the first child of italic element, child nodes of 0 of italic element. Dot node value is modified to hello, good morning. Right? So if a text node is nested within multiple elements, you can access it and manipulate it. Just execute it in Fiddle and you can visualize the output. Copy the script code and copy the HTML code too. So we have a paragraph element which is italicized. Now click on this button. The content of the text node is modified to hello, good morning. And here even you can use first child also. You can modify it and check first child dot first child if there is a only child, you can use first child property too. There is another property also, last child. You can use these properties also. Hope you are able to visualize the output. Now let us move to the next topic, attribute properties. At every element node has attributes. Right? You can access the attributes of an element node by using a property called as attribute name, that is by using its property and or using methods. There are two methods, the get attribute, set attribute. Get attribute is used to access the value of a property and set attribute is used to modify the value of a property. Right? So to access directly without a method, you can use this form. Name of the element dot attribute name will give you the value of that particular attribute. Take this example. Here we have two paragraph elements. One first paragraph element, the ID is T1 and the value of property align is assigned as left with the text node good morning. And the second paragraph element, the ID is T2 and the value of align property is set to center and it has a text node welcome all. Right? And let us access the property value of align from these two paragraph elements. Right? To access an element, what you have to do? First, you have to identify it. To identify it, here we use the method get element by ID. Right? And to access the property value of align, I'll just use the statement A dot align. A refers to the element paragraph with ID T1, A dot align. So A dot align will return you the value left. And I have identified the second paragraph element with ID T2. And I've used the method get attribute to read the value of the property align. So B refers to the second paragraph with ID T2. B dot get attribute of align will return the value center. Right? Now, if I need to modify the alignment as left, dynamically I can do it using set attribute. B dot set attribute pass the property as a first parameter and its value as a second parameter. Now, if I access the property value, it will return as left. Can execute this code in Fiddle. Copy the HTML code separately and script code separately. So first, it returns a paragraph element with value good morning and another with value welcome all. And we are accessing the property of A dot align, it will return you left as its value is left. Second, you are accessing the value of the second paragraph, it will return you center. Right? And after modifying the value of align attribute as left, if you are again accessing the value of attribute align of paragraph with ID T2, it will return you left. So you can dynamically modify the value of properties too. Hope you are able to visualize it. Coming to setting attribute styles for CSS. So every element has a style property. Right? So every element has a style object using which we can model CSS style and properties. Right? So here I have given an example for changing few styles. There are a lot of CSS property styles with style object, and I have used a few. The first one is color. Right? So here I'm going to, in this example, I'm going to use a paragraph element with the text welcome, and I'm going to apply the style properties on these paragraph element with value welcome. Right? So first I have to identify that paragraph element. So document dot get element by ID of P1 dot style. To modify the CSS style properties, access the style object. Style dot color. Color refers to the foreground color of the text. Right? The color of the text will be modified to red. The second, we have used the text align property. Text align sets the horizontal alignment of the text. Text align will set the horizontal alignment of the text. It can be, the values can be either left, right, center, or justify. Right? And next I have modified the background color of body. Right? Body document dot body dot style dot background. That is, it will modify the background color of the browser window. Changed it to yellow. Right? And now you modified the font size of this paragraph object as XX large. It font size can take a series of values like XX small or X small or medium or large, X hyphen large or XX large. Right? It can take a variety of values. I have used XX large here. Then next I have used the font style property. Font style property, the value can be either normal, italic, or oblique. Oblique in the sense the text will slightly slant to the right. And font weight property refers to the boldness of a text. The value can be either normal or lighter or bold or bolder, or you can pass any value in 100 to 900, from 100 to 900, 100, 200, 300 in hundreds, which ranges from light weight to bold, right? And text decoration. Next is text decoration, which represents the decoration of the text. And text decoration value can be either underline or overline or line through. Line through in the sense a line which is placed above the text, right? Also, you can use a combination of those values. Here I've used a combination of underline and overline. And the next property I've used is text shadow, which gives shadow effect on the text. It takes three values: green, which represents the color of the shadow, and other two values are position of shadow. Right? The first value 5 pixels specify the position of horizontal shadow, and the next value refers position of vertical shadow. And the last one is text transform. Text transform refers to capitalization of text, and it may take values like capitalize, uppercase, or lowercase. Right? Here I've used uppercase. Right? Now we execute this code in Fiddle, and you can visualize the output. Copy the script code and place under script part. Copy the HTML code, place it in HTML part, and this is your output. Right? The foreground color is changed to red, and alignment has become, text alignment is center, and background color of browser window is changed to yellow, and font size is large, extra large, and the font style is italic, font weight is changed to bold, and the text decoration, there is both underline and overline, and text shadow has been used, and uppercase text transform is modified to uppercase. So this is the output after executing this code. So this is an example which illustrates the use of CSS styles in JavaScript. So using this, there are a lot of CSS style properties. Any property can be used in the same way. Okay. Try out this and visualize the output. Okay, hope you have visualized the output. Let us move to the next topic. Manipulating nodes. And every node object has certain functions. Right? First among those functions is has child nodes. It will return true if a node has at least one child node. Right? And other functions are insert before. Right? Using insert before, we can insert a node before an existing node. Right? And using replace child method, we can replace an existing child node with a new node. And remove child method, you can remove the specified child of an element, a particular child of an element. And append child node, you can append a node as a last child of a particular node. Append means adding at the last. So append child will add a node as a last child for a particular node. And clone node method will create a copy of a given node. Right? And let us first learn how to create a new element and append it to the browser window dynamically. Right? First, to create a text node, use create text node method. Right? Create text node method and pass the text as an argument. Right? And you can attach the text node as a child to an element node. Right? So use append child to attach the text node as a child to an element node. Right? And to create an element node, use create element method. To create an element node, create element method. An element has tag name. Element means tag. So pass the tag name as an argument. And you can append this element as an child to an already existing element node, or you can append it to the body part of the HTML element. Right? So consider this example. Here in this page, you have an H1 element with value my first web page. Right? So here we'll create an element, paragraph element, and we can append it to the browser window. This body part of the window. Right? So first we'll create to create a paragraph element. The paragraph element will have a paragraph element and it has also a text node. Right? So first create a paragraph node and then create a text node. Then you attach both, that is append the text node to the paragraph node. Then after attaching the text node to the paragraph node, you append the paragraph node to the browser window. Right? So to create an element, the method used is create element method. Right? Document.create element of P will create a paragraph element. Now new ELM will represent your paragraph element. And we'll create a text node, create text node with value good morning to all. Right? This will create a text node. And text element now will represent good morning to all. Right? And let us attach the text element to new element. Right? So new element dot append child of text element. Append text element as a child to new element. And you append the paragraph as a child to body part. Right? So document dot body dot append child of new element. So your browser window will have now my first page as a H1 element and a paragraph element with text good morning to all. Okay. Execute it in Fiddle and visualize the output. Copy the HTML code separately and place it in HTML part. And copy the script code and place it in script part. So while executing, we'll get this output, right? Initially, it had a H1 with value, my first web page, and dynamically, we have created a paragraph element. We have attached it to the browser window. So can you visualize the output? Okay. So this is another example for creating a new element, that is creating a nested element and attaching it to the browser window. Right? Here we have, together with the paragraph element, we have attached an italic node as a child to paragraph element, and you have appended it. So first we have created a paragraph element and created a text element, and we have appended the text element to the paragraph element, and we have appended this paragraph element to your browser window. Next, we have created an italic element, and again a text node for italic element, and we have appended this text node to italic element, and this italic element is appended to your paragraph element. Paragraph element is the new element, right? So execute the code and visualize the output. together with the paragraph element, we have added an italic element with value hello everyone. Can you visualize the output? Okay. Now moving to insert before method. The use of insert before method is inserting an element, a new element before an existing element, right? So here already we have an H1 element. Right? We'll insert a paragraph element before this H1 element, right? So to insert one element before other, you have to identify the existing element, right? So you're going to insert a new element before an existing element. So you have to first identify that existing element. So to identify the existing element, we can use get element by ID method, right? So HELEM will represent your heading element, right? So before this heading element, we are going to create a paragraph element and append to it, right? So you create a paragraph element using create element method, right? And you have to append a text node to it. So directly it is done within the statement itself. New element dot append child of, we are creating a text node with value good morning to all, right? And to the browser window, that is to body part of the HTML element, you are inserting the new element. First parameter will be the new element that is created, and second parameter will be the existing node, right? The existing node is H element, and the new element created is new element, right? So before my first web page, we'll have the paragraph element good morning to all in your output. So you're dynamically modifying the contents of HTML element, right? So copy this code and execute it in Fiddle, and you can visualize the output. So before this my first web page heading, we have added a paragraph element with the text node good morning to all. Hope you have visualized the output. And now moving to next method, replace one node by another node. Right? So to replace one node by another node, identify the already existing node, right? By using get element by ID method, and create a new node and pass both the new existing node and the new node as parameters to replace child method, right? So here we are replacing a heading element by a paragraph element, right? So identify the heading element, which is referred by HELEM variable, and create a new paragraph element. New ELM represents the new paragraph element, and pass both as arguments to replace child method. Right, so these this H1 element is already part of your body part of HTML element. So the first parameter to replace child will be your new element that is created, and second parameter should be the node to be replaced. Right. So now your output will be only good morning to all. Right. Just check it. You have replaced my first web page heading by your paragraph node, good morning to all. So this will be your output after replacement. Now coming to remove child. Remove child is used to remove a specified child of a parent. Right? Remove child is used to remove a specific child of a parent. Right? So here we have a div element with two paragraph elements as children, P with ID P1 and P with ID P2. Now what you're going to do is you're going to remove the paragraph element with ID P1 from this div element. So to remove a child from a parent, you have to identify both the parent and the child. Right? So first parent is identified by using get element by ID method and it is stored under parent. And then we have identified the child P1 again by using get element by ID method. Now from the parent, you remove the child, right? So parent dot remove child of child, right? So your output will be only one paragraph, right? Initially it had two paragraph elements. We have removed one child of this development. So we'll get output as only one paragraph. Right? So copy the code, try to execute it. Copy the HTML code separately and script code separately. Initially, it had two paragraphs and using the remove child method, I've removed one child as the first paragraph of a parent element div. Hope you have completed. You can also remove a node using method remove. Right? So this remove method removes the entire contents of an element. Right? Remove method removes the entire content of a method. Right? Here you have used a button tool. Right? So here in your initial browser window, there is a div element with two paragraphs and we have a button too. And when the button is clicked, a function, my function is called. Right? And this my function is going to remove the element div1. Right? Element div with ID div1. Right? So it will remove the entire content of a div. Let us execute it and visualize the output. Copying the script code and HTML code separately. Initially, there are two paragraphs within a div block, and when you click remove element, there is some issue. So in your code, you just check there is no ID there. So without any idea, I tried to access the div element. Now let me check it. So I have identified the element div by its ID div1 and have removed this element. The entire content of div element will get removed, right? So if you want to remove a specific child of an element, you can go for remove child method. And if you want to remove an entire element with all its children, you can use the remove method. Are you able to visualize the output? Okay. Now moving to event handling in HTML DOM. So yesterday session we have learned how to perform event handling. Right? What did we do? We have attached the event handler together with the HTML element itself. Right? You have used inliners directly. We have inserted code within the HTML element itself. Also, we have called the function. Right? So here we'll learn how to handle an event by using DOM, right? That is how to handle an element by identifying the element dynamically, right? So see this example here. There is a button, right? So you can create a button either using input element, or you can directly use button element. Here I have used input element to create a button with the type as button, ID as B1, and value as click me. What I want is when I click this button, it should execute the code display, right? So using DOM, what you have to do to manipulate any element to act, you should first identify it, right? So I have identified the element by method document.getElement by ID, right? So document.getElement by ID of B1 will identify the button element, right? And I have assigned the event type. So here my event type is click, right? There is an inbuilt event handler here on click, right? So button element dot on click is assigned to display. No need of any function call here, just assign the name of the function, right? So when you click on this button, automatically the function display will get executed. Okay? So you can try it out. When I click on this button, automatically the function display gets executed, and alert window, as I have given an alert window, it displays an alert window with value hello everyone. And there are a lot of built-in event handlers for every event. For click, event handler is on click. And for submit, on submit, reset, on reset. For every event, there is an event handler. So you can assign the event handlers, that is the action to be done in the same way. Right? And you can also add and remove event listeners. You can add and remove event listeners to individual elements using the method add event listener and remove event listener. Here it takes 3 parameters. The first parameter is event type. Event type is the name of the event. Right? Event type is name of the event, and second parameter is the name of the event handler. That is the name of the function that should get executed as a response. And third parameter refers event propagation that we'll learn in the next slides. So first we'll learn how to implement add event listener method, right? So here I have a button element, and I'm going to add 2 event listeners to this button element, right? So to access or to manipulate an element dynamically, what you have to do? First, I have to identify that element. So I have identified the button element using getElement by ID method. So document.getElement by ID of B1 will refer to the button, right? And I have added 2 event listeners, one for mouse over. That is when the mouse is moved over the button, what should be done? And when the mouse is moved away from the button, what should be done? Right? So add event listener of to this button. Now element refers to button. So button element, I'm adding an event listener. First is mouse over. When mouse is moved over, listener1 function should get executed. Right? So in the listener1 function, I have modified the style object. That is color, foreground color of the particular button to red. Right? The text that is displayed above the button will be changed to red color. Right? And when I move away the mouse, that is, I'm adding a listener with mouse out. Right? Mouse out. When a mouse is moved away from the element, a listener to function should get called. Right? And listener to function have modified the color to empty. I've removed the color. Right? And third parameter is not used here, so it is set to false. Right? Try to execute and visualize the output. So when I move the mouse over the button, the foreground color, that is the color of the text changed to red, and when I move away, the color is in default color. So even if you want to change the background color, you can do it. Modify the property background color. C is capital, I hope. The background color of button is changed to red. And similarly, we can set any other style property too. Completed. I hope you're completed. Moving on to the next topic, event propagation. So consider nested elements. One element which is defined within another element, right? And you consider two elements which are nested, right? And they both have registered for the same listener. Right? They both have registered for the same listener for the same event. For example, click.
Ma'am, ஃப்ரைடே இன்னையில இருந்து ஆக்சுவலா ரிவ்யூ வச்சிருக்கணும். நேத்து முந்தானேத்தெல்லாம் இங்க பவர் சப்ளை இல்ல, அதனால நாங்க பண்ண மேம் நேத்து ஹோல்.
Hello. Okay. So in this case, when you click on the inner element, that is a nested element, which event handler should be called first? When you click on the inner element, that is a nested element, which event handler should be called first? This is decided by event propagation, right? So consider nested elements and both the elements have registered for the same listener for the same event, right? Registered for the same event, and when you click on, that is perform an action on the innermost element, nested element, which event handler should be called first? This is decided by event propagation. And there are two ways of event propagation. One is bubbling and capturing. In the case of bubbling, when you handle, that is perform an action on the nested element, the innermost elements event will be handled first and then the outer. And this it is the reverse in capturing. The outermost elements event is handled first and then the inner. And while speaking about add event listener method, there was a third parameter, right? Use capture. And if this third parameter is set to false, bubbling propagation happens. That is, the innermost elements event is handled first, followed by the outer. And when it's set to true, capturing propagation happens. The outermost elements event is handled first and then the in. Consider this example. Here we have two sets of div elements. Div element with ID mydiv1, and it contains a paragraph tag under it, right? And another div element with mydiv2 as ID, and it again has a paragraph tag. Right? First div block will explain you the bubbling propagation. Second one, capturing propagation. Right? Now here both the div and paragraph have registered for the click event, and again here also div and paragraph have registered for the click event. Right? So document.getElement by ID of paragraph.add event listener of click. Similarly, div also have registered for click. Right? Since the third parameter is set to false, it means it performs bubbling propagation. Right? And if it is set to true, it performs capturing propagation. Right? Just execute the code and you can visualize the output, what happens. Copy the HTML code. Copy the script code separately. When you click here, in the case of bubbling propagation, when you click on the nested element, that is innermost element, right? First, the innermost elements event is handled, followed by outermost element. In the case of capturing propagation, the outermost elements event is handled first, followed by innermost element. Right? This is done only when you perform an operation on the nested element. So try to execute this. So hope you are able to visualize it. Moving to the next part, form validation. So that's about DOM. We have handled most of the concepts of DOM. Coming to form validation. So whenever you go to any site and fill a registration form, you may get some messages like the password should contain an uppercase letter and a symbol, or it must be of length 8 digits, or you should not leave this, that is this field is compulsory, such messages. And this feedback is called as form validation. So what the form validation does is, whether it checks whether the data that you have entered is in the correct format, and whether it is within the constraints set by the application. Right? Form validation means checking the data for correct format and checking whether it is within the constraints. Right? This can be done either by the browser or by the server. If it is done by the browser, it is called as client-side validation, and if it is done on the server, it is called server-side validation. Right? Now let us first discuss a simple JavaScript code which performs form validation. Right? Here we are going to take a form with two fields, a name and a password, and the constraints that we are going to set here is the text field, that is the name field, should not be empty. And the password field must be of minimum 6 characters. Right? So these are the constraints that you are going to set, and how to perform form validation. Right? So I have defined a function named validate form, and I'm going to execute this function when you submit this form. Right? So assign the function validate form to the attribute on submit. Right? When the form is submitted, this validate form function will get called. Right? And to perform validation, I need to identify the elements within your form. right? So you have to use form array of document object, right? So document dot forms, here it takes two index. The first index refers to the name of the form. Second index refers to the name of the field, particular field, right? And dot value will refer to the value contained within that particular text field, right? So here, just to see, the input type is equal to text and name equal to T1, right? The text field for name, the value of name for the text field is T1. So X now refers to the text field, the value of text field for a username. Right? Similarly, we can access the value for password field too. Right? And what is the constraint set? The username should not be empty. So check if X is equal to empty, you're going to display an alert box that the name should not be empty. And after displaying the alert box, I'm going to bring the focus, that is, bring the cursor to the text field itself. That is done using focus method. Right? Bring focus to document dot form one dot text field one, and you return false. And what is the second constraint here? The length of the password must be of minimum 6, right? So to check the length, there is a field length. To every string object, there is a field length. So while dot length will give you the number of characters with the password field value 5. Right? If while dot length is less than 6, you'll display an alert box that password must be of minimum length 6. And after displaying the alert box, again the focus is brought to the password field and will return false. If both satisfies, the form will be successfully submitted, right? So try to execute this. Copy the form separately to HTML part and script code separately to script part. So this will be your output screen. You have a label name with the text field and you have a label password with the password field. Also, we have a submit button, right? So the constraint set is if X is equal to empty, you are displaying an alert box. The form will not get submitted, right? So now I'll try to submit without entering any name. I'll get an alert box saying that name must not be empty. And the focus is brought to that text box, right? And the password field, again, the password field, it should be of minimum length 6. So when I give a password of length 2 and submit, again here name is empty. So name is displayed as empty. So name, enter a name and give a password with the length 2. Display that a password must be of minimum length 6, right? And if both satisfies, form will get successfully submitted, right? This is simple form validation using JavaScript. Let's try to visualize the output. I hope you have completed. So next is built-in form validation. Yes, you've learned about HTML5 form controls. HTML5 form controls perform validation automatically. Right? Automatically, they can perform validation without using JavaScript itself. Right? This validation is done based on validation attributes. Right? So, without the use of JavaScript, HTML5 form controls can perform validation. Right? This is done based on validation attributes, and these are the validation attributes. First validation attribute is required. If you specify a field as required, if you did not, that is, it is compulsory to fill that form before submitting. Fill that field before submitting the form. Right? And second is min length and max length. Min length and max length specifies the minimum and maximum length of text data, whereas min and max specifies minimum and maximum values of numerical input values. And there is another attribute type. Type perform validation based on its type itself. Right? For example, if you specify the type as number, it receives only number values. Right? And if you enter some other type of data, it will give you an error. And pattern, you can specify a particular text to be entered in a particular pattern. Right? And as we discussed in yesterday's session, pattern can be specified using a regular expression. Right? So HTML5 form controls can perform automatic form validation using their validation attributes. We'll see simple examples. First, consider the required attribute. Right? Here we have a text field which is specified as required. Right? And if you submit the form without filling this field, you'll get an error like this. Please fill out this field. You cannot submit this form without entering this field. Right? So try to execute it. When you run this code, if I try to submit without filling, I'll get an error message. Please fill out this field. So for compulsory fields, you can use this required attribute. Coming to constraints. To constrain the length or values of your entries, you can use for in the case of text, you can use min length and max length. And the case of numbers, you can use min and max. Right? So here, username, the value, the type is text, and you have specified the minimum length as 3, maximum length as 6. Right? So if you are not entering here in this sample screen, I have entered a string with length 1. So I'm given an error message. Please lengthen this text to 3 characters or more. Right? And here this number field, I have specified the minimum value as 1 and maximum value as 10. Right? And you can enter the value only within this range, 1, 10. Right? So if I enter some other values, I'll get a error message there. Right? So to constrain the value or length of your entries, you can use those attributes: min length, max length, min and max. Execute it in Fiddle and you can visualize the output. And this code, there is no JavaScript there, only HTML. Getting some error there. Let me check. Somewhere there is a double slash. Min length equal to 3. Input should be a number. Min is equal to 3. Now it's working. So here we have specified the minimum length of the text as 3. And you can also specify the max length. It max the length as 6. Right. So if I the submit button here, that's it. Input type equal to submit. Value again. There is some error over there. Yes, so you have entered a single character, so it gives me error message that please lengthen this text to 3 characters or more, as you have specified the minimum length as 3 and maximum length as 6. And now, when I here in the case of number, I have specified the minimum value as 3 and maximum as 10. If I try to enter some other values, I'll get a message, error message. Value must be less than or equal to 10. So with this, you can constrain the length and values of certain fields. Right? And try to visualize it. And coming to validation against a type email validation. To perform email validation, you can use the type as email. Right? You can use the type as email. Right? If you are not entering the email in the correct format, the control itself will give you an error message. You can execute this too. Here, when I entered only text without @ dot, it gives me an error message. Please include an @ in the email address. Right? This is not a correct email format. Right? Try to execute it. Have you visualized the output and shall I continue? So assuming that there is no problem in execution, and I'm continuing. Validation against a regular expression, right? You can validate control against a regular expression with the use of pattern attribute. Regular expression is a pattern, right? And these are some sample patterns. For example, if the pattern is A, the pattern that you provided is A, the value must be A and it should not be anything else. And if the pattern is A, B, C, the value should be A followed by B followed by C, should not be anything else. And A, B, question mark, C. So yesterday we have discussed about the quantifiers question mark in the sense either 0 occurrence or 1 occurrence, right? So the value can be either AC or ABC, right? And AB asterisk C means B asterisk means 0 or more occurrences. So it can be AC or ABC or A multiple times B, any number of B's followed by C, right? A or B. So it should match either A, the value should be either A or B, right? It can be multiple characters too, ABC or XYZ. It can be only ABC or XYZ. These are certain patterns. Now, here in our example, I have specified the pattern as Raju or Ramu. So what should be your input here? Either Raju or Ramu, right? So here, if you have some specific usernames also, you can go with this pattern attribute, right? So if I enter something other than Raju or Ramu, it will give you an error message like please match the requested format. Try to execute it. I'm entering a value other than Raju or Ramu. I'll get the error as please match the requested format. So this example illustrates the pattern attribute. That's about form validation. You can perform simple form validation by accessing each and every element of your form, or you can use inbuilt form validation attributes, right? Now, coming to BOM. BOM stands for browser object model, right? And this browser object model is used to interact with your browser, right? And there are few objects under this BOM like window object, navigator object, screen object, history object, location, and document object. Using those objects, we can interact with the browser. And where the window object represents your main browser window, the entire browser window. Navigator contains information about the browser, and screen represents your screen, the user screen, and history object will contain the URLs visited by the user, and location will be the current URL of your browser window, and document will be the main document appearing in the main browser window. So we'll learn each and everything one by one. First one is window object. Window object is a window in the browser. It automatically browser creates an object of window, and window is an object of browser. It is not the object of JavaScript, right? And using the properties of window object, we can find the size of your browser window. If there are two properties like inner width and inner height, using both these properties, we can find out the inner height and inner width of your browser window in pixel values. Right? So this is a sample code where you have access. Window.inner width will give you the inner width, and window.inner height will give you the inner height, and you can access those values. It also, window object has some methods. So already you are aware of alert method, confirm method, prompt method. And these are the methods under window object. We have other methods too: open, close, and set timeout. Specifically, the set timeout method performs some action after a particular time period. Right? After a specified time, it will perform some action. Right? And these methods are under window object. And even then, we are just calling it as alert, confirm, prompt. Since window is a global object, and without the name of window, we can access these methods. Next comes the screen object. The screen object contains the information about the user screen. Right? Width, you can find the width, height, available width. Available width means it excludes the interface features, like it gives the width by excluding the taskbar, those things. Similarly, window, available height. Right? And color depth. Color depth gives the number of bits used to display one color, and pixel depth will return the pixel depth of your screen. And next comes a location object. Location object is used to get the current URL. Right? It is used to get the current URL, and you can redirect the browser to a new page. So href is a property which returns the current URL of the page. Right? And host name returns a domain name, and path name returns the path and file name of the current page. Protocol returns the web protocol used, and assign method is used to load a new document. Right? And this is an example which illustrates the use of location object. You can try it out. Here, you access the value of href, host name, path name, and protocol. Href gives you the entire URL. Host name gives you only the domain name. Path name gives you the path name, and protocol returns the protocol used. Here it is HTTPS. When you click, you can move to a new page, and there is some connection problem. So else it will move to a new page. So visualize this output. So location or assign is to redirect to a new page. Now coming to history object and navigator object. History object contains the history of your browser. Right? And it has two methods, back and forward. And both these methods are like clicking back in the browser and forward in the browser. Right? And navigator object will contain information about your browser. There are properties like app name. App name is the application name of the browser, and Netscape is the application name for IE, Internet Explorer 11, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari. An app code name. App code name is the application code name of your browser. Right? A Mozilla is the application code name for Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, and Opera. Platform will give you the operating system name. And version, app version, give you the version information about the browser. So this is an example where we have used navigator object to find the app name, app code name, app version, and platform. So execute it, and this is a script code. Place it under script. will return the output. Application name as Netscape and application code name as Mozilla and application version of my browser and my operating system that is used. Okay, similarly, you'll get information about your browser. Make a try. So hope you're able to complete it. So coming to timing events. So there are two methods with your window object that allow execution of a function or a specified code at some specific time intervals. Right? The two methods are set timeout and set interval. So your set timeout method will execute a function after a specific time period. Here your time should be specified in milliseconds. And set interval is similar to that of set timeout, but it repeatedly, that is, it continuously execute the function again and again. Right? So to perform timing events, we can go for set timeout and set interval method. Right? So this is an example with set timeout method. Here we are executing a function after a particular milliseconds. Here we have a button, and when you click on that button, you're calling set timeout method. Right? The set timeout method is passed a function named my function. Right? And passed a time interval 3000 milliseconds. Right? It will be equal to 3 seconds, I hope. And after, when you execute this, when you click on this button, after 3 seconds, this hello will be alerted. Right? So try it out and you can visualize the output. Place HTML code in HTML part and script code in script part. When you click on this button, try it. After 3 seconds, you can get the alert interrupt. Are you able to visualize it? Okay. Now moving on to set interval method. Set interval method repeats a particular function for every given time interval. And here again, time should be given in milliseconds. So here you have used an example program where there is a paragraph element, and so we are modifying the content of paragraph element with the current time string. And this function set interval, it is passed two arguments, my timer and 1000. That is 1 second. So every 1 second, the my timer function will get executed, right? Executed, and it is replaced with the current time. every 1 second, the function gets executed again and again, and it replaces the paragraph element with the current time. Try to execute it. You can visualize the output. Every 1 second, the current time will get updated. Are you able to complete it? Okay. That's about timing events, BOM object. Now we'll learn few concepts from jQuery. jQuery improves JavaScript library. That is, it is a fast, small, and feature-rich JavaScript library. Right? So using jQuery, we can make this JavaScript easier. And most complicated task that is used in JavaScript is simplified in jQuery. Right? So if you write some 100 lines of code in JavaScript, it can be minimized. The number of lines of code can be minimized and it can be simplified using jQuery. And using jQuery, we can perform HTML DOM manipulation, CSS manipulation, and you can perform event handling, you can perform some effects, you can use some effects and animations using jQuery, right? So we'll discuss a few concepts in jQuery. So why we go for jQuery? So JavaScript has some cross-browser issues. It doesn't behave same in all browsers. And jQuery incorporated all the cross-browser issues, and it will mostly run the same in all the browsers. And many biggest companies on the web like Google, Microsoft, IBM uses jQuery. Right? And how to add jQuery to your web pages. Right? You can either download jQuery from jQuery.com, or you can include it from a content delivery network, right? Like Google. Right? So here I have used jQuery from a content delivery network, and this is the source, a location where https://ajax.googleaps.com. This is the location where I have used the jQuery. Right? So with this, by using source attribute of this link, I can link jQuery to my web page. Right? Instead of downloading jQuery library, I can use some content delivery network. And what is the syntax for using jQuery? So with jQuery, we can select elements and I can perform certain actions on them. Right? And how to use jQuery? The basic syntax is $ within parenthesis, you give a selector followed by a dot, you can give the action to be done. Right? There are many type of actions that can be done. We can see a few. Here, $ specifies that it is an jQuery. It defines jQuery. And selector is used to identify HTML elements. Right? An action, it is the particular action to be done on an element that is identified. This is the basic syntax of jQuery. $ followed by selector within parenthesis dot, the particular action to be performed on the HTML element. And jQuery selectors. What is the purpose of jQuery selectors? Is to identify HTML elements. Right? And you can identify a HTML element based on its name, ID, classes, types, attributes, values of attributes, and so on. Right? And what are types of selectors? There are element selectors, ID selectors, class selector. Right? The element selector selects an element based on its name. Right? To select an element based on its name, within parentheses, within double quotes, you pass the name of the element, the name of the tag. Following dollar within parentheses, to select an element by name, give the name of the particular element. Right? You can also select an element based on its ID. Right? To use an ID selector, you pass or you prefix the ID value with the hash. Right? Dollar within parentheses, double quotes, hash, the ID name. And you can also select an element based on its class. Right? While you specify a class value, prefix it with dot. Dollar, double quotes, dot, class name. And there are two basic methods, hide and show. Let us learn how to execute hide and show method with jQuery. Right? So to execute jQuery with Fiddle, what you have to do an add and resource. That is, click on CDN.js. In the left side tab, click on, under resources, click on CDN.js. Right? And there is a tab there, paste a direct CSS or JS or URL, JS URL, right? So here you copy the value of the source attribute directly, copy the value of the source attribute and paste here and click on plus. Right? The resource required for jQuery will be added to your web page, to Fiddle, so that you can execute jQuery code. Am I clear? To execute jQuery with Fiddle, what you have to do is copy the value of the source attribute. HTTPS, the location where you're going to refer jQuery. Copy this, click on CDN.js and paste the URL here and click plus. So here your page will look like this. The resource will get added. jQuery.min.js will get added. Done? Can anyone respond through chat? Okay. So Shamir sir has replied. Yeah. Now you can execute jQuery code. So before executing, let me explain this code. So here in your HTML page, you have a heading element, a paragraph, two paragraph elements, right? Now what I'm going to do is, on loading the page, I'm going to hide the paragraph elements. Right? On loading the page, I'm going to hide the paragraph elements. To do this, what you have to do is, under the script part, I have to write jQuery code, and write all the jQuery code under ready function. And this ready function executes the code when the page is completely loaded. Right? So $document.ready of this ready method is under document method. $document will refer to your current browser document window. Right? When the complete page is loaded, ready, you execute this function. Right? Ready under ready, it is like this, $document.ready. Open parenthesis, close parenthesis, semicolon. Right? When it is ready, execute a function. Right? Specify a function. Function, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. And how will you define the code? Open braces, close braces. Now, within this, you give the code. Right? What should I do? I should hide all the paragraph elements. right? I have to identify all the paragraph elements. So what is a selector required? And this is the jQuery code. jQuery syntax, dollar followed by selector. I have to select all the paragraph elements, right? So I'm selecting based on its tag. So double quotes P dot hide off, right? So all the paragraph elements will get hidden, right? Similarly, you can use the show method here to make some elements visible. You can use the show method too, right? Now we'll execute this code. Place HTML code under HTML path. And place the jQuery code under the script path. There initially our document had a heading path, heading element and 2 paragraphs. So once the document is loaded, I call the function. And what is the code under that function? Hide all the paragraph elements, right? So all the paragraph elements are hidden and only the heading is visible. Hope you are able to visualize the output. I'll move to the next method. How to perform event handling with jQuery, right? So to consider this statement, to assign a click event to all paragraphs, what you have to do is dollar identify all the paragraphs dot assign method click, right? To assign a click event, any event. Here it is click, the name of the event, right? To assign, to perform event handling, identify the element and assign the events to be handled there, right? And the response that should be given when the event occurs is given under this open parenthesis, close parenthesis as a function, right? So there are a lot of commonly used methods. Here ready allows us to execute a function when the document is completely loaded. Click executed when the user clicks on the HTML element. Double click is executed when the user double clicks on the HTML element. And mouse enter and mouse leave. Mouse enter when mouse pointer enters an element, and mouse leave when mouse pointer leaves the element. Mouse down when any of the mouse button is pressed down. Mouse up when any of the mouse button is released. H over, hover. It takes 2 functions as parameters. And it is a combination of mouse enter and mouse leave methods. When the mouse enters, the first function will get executed. And when the mouse leaves, the second function gets executed. And focus. When any form field gets focused, its focus means the cursor is within that particular field, right? And blur, when a field loses focus. On method is used to attach 1 or more event handlers for particular selected elements, right? Now let us see an example with the click event, right? So I have a button and 1 heading element and 2 paragraphs under my web page. And what I'm going to do is when I click on this button, all the paragraph elements should be hidden, right? And try to execute this code. Place the script code under the script part and HTML code under HTML. When I click on this there is an error. The code is not completely copied. So when I click on this button, the paragraphs are hidden. So this is to how to perform event handling. So in the place of click, we can give any event name. Right. Hope you are able to visualize it. Now another example using mouse enter, mouse leave event. Right. So when here the code is when we end, here we have a button. When the mouse enter the button button will be hidden. Right. When the mouse leaves, the button will be visible. Right. So I have used both the hide method and show method, and mouse enter. The name of the event for mouse enter is mouse enter, and for mouse leave it is mouse leave. So there is a single statement under HTML, that is creation of a button. And copy the script code. Script. So when I bring the mouse over the button becomes hidden, and when I move it again, it becomes visible. So similarly, we can perform event handling with all the other type of events available. So hope you are able to complete it. And there are a lot of effects that can be applied with jQuery. One such effect is fading method. Fading means bring an element in and out of visibility. That is, make an element visible and make it hidden. It fade in will make an element visible. Right? Fade out will make an element hidden. It fade toggle will toggle between. If it is visible, it is hidden. If it is hidden, it is made visible. Fade to, it can fade it to a particular opacity, and you have to pass a value between 0 and 1. Now here, in our example, given 3 div blocks, right? And I have specified the width, height, and display colon none. And this value, this property will make the particular block hidden. And the background color is given as red for div 1. And here div 1 and div 2 are hidden. And div 3 is made visible. And I have a button 2. When you click on this button, what happens is div 1 and div 2, since it is hidden, they are made visible. Fade in, they are made visible. And div 3, it is visible, it is made hidden. That is fade out. Right? Try to execute and you can visualize the output. Here only one block is visible. When I click this button, the other 2 blocks with color red and green became visible, and the third block with the color blue become hidden. Right? So this is an effect that can be done with jQuery. Hope you are able to visualize it. The next effect is sliding methods. You can create a sliding effects on elements. That is, you can move elements up and down. Right? This is done using slide down, slide up, and slide toggle method. Slide down brings an element downwards, and slide up makes it move upwards. Right? Toggle, if it is down, it is made up. If it is up, it is made down. Right? So here I have given an example. So I'll execute it and we can visualize how the output is. Copy the script code. And there is some style part here. CSS style part. Here we have a copy the style part content to CSS path and your HTML content to HTML path. Now we have two div blocks with ID flip and panel. Flip is made, both are assigned some styles, text align, background color and border, right? And the second one, panel, is made hidden, right? And when I click on this button, if you're clicking flip, that is, if you're clicking the first div block, I'm setting slide down, panel dot slide down. You're calling the function slide down. So second div block will get slided down, right? So this is sliding effect. You can make a slide up to. Right? So if you are removing the panel from making it visible, making the panel as visible, both will become visible. And panel, you can slide up using slide up method. When you click on this panel, it will become slided up. Hope you are able to visualize it. Coming to retrieving the contents of HTML element, that is using DOM manipulation. DOM manipulation can be done by text method, HTML method, and val method. Text method, you can retrieve only the text content of the selected elements, right? And using HTML method, you can retrieve the entire content with tags. And val is used to modify or access the value of form fields. Right? We'll see examples for these. So first, let us see an example with the text and HTML. So let us execute the code and see how the output looks. Copy the script code and copy the HTML code. CSS code is not necessary, so I'm removing it. When I click on this show text button, I'm accessing the text content of hash test, the paragraph element. Right? Only the text content of paragraph element will be retrieved. Right? So there is some bold text in a paragraph. See the content of paragraph tag, there is some B tag is also used there. Text in a paragraph. So text method, show text calls the text method, which is used to access only the text within an element, right? And show HTML calls the HTML method, which includes all the HTML tags also. It describes all the content, both the text and tags. So this is the illustration of text and HTML method. Coming to val method, copy the content, just execute it. Get value, when this get value button is clicked, I'm calling val method, right, which will give you the value of the particular text, right? And click the get value method. I'm giving that I'm displaying both the value of the text and its attribute value too, right? So val returns a value within a particular field and attribute returns the attribute of a particular field, right? So value colon default, default in the sense default text is the actual text which is present in the text field. So val returns the text which is contained within your field. An attribute of type, I am retrieving the value of attribute type. The attribute type value is text, so it returns the text, right? And when you click on set value method, I am modifying the value of text field to Raju, right? So I click set value, the value of the text field is modified to Raju. So with val method, we can modify, access and modify the values of form fields. The last method is CSS. CSS method is used to modify the CSS style properties of an element. Right? Here we have two elements in your document, heading and paragraph. And we have a button here. When the button is clicked, what happens is identifies the paragraph element and changes its CSS property background color to yellow. Right? To change the CSS property, use the CSS method. Right? Pass the property and its value as arguments. And also you can pass multiple styles within a single code itself. That is, give the property name colon value, comma, second property colon value within braces. Right? So for H2, the background color is changed to yellow and the font style is changed to italic. To execute this code, copy the HTML code and the HTML part and CSS, sorry, script code under script part. So when you click on this button, what happens is for paragraph, we have set only the background color as yellow. And for H2, both the background color is set as yellow and font style is made italic. So hope you are able to visualize the output. So hope I have covered most of the topics under JavaScript and few concepts under JScript. So with this, you can stop the session, and if you're having any queries, you can ask.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, use the chat window. And one important announcement, and tomorrow's, due to our inconvenience, tomorrow's session is shifted from morning session to afternoon session, and the timing is from 2 to 4 p.m. Once again, I'll repeat. Tomorrow's workshop time is shifted to 2 to 4 p.m. I request all the participants to begin at 2 o'clock.
So there is a query regarding modifying the position of alert box. It can be done. Yeah, can be done, sir. I don't know who asked it. Can be done by modifying the CSS top and left properties. We can modify the position of an alert box. You can try it out. If you are having any issues, you can get back to me. I'll give you a solution.
Any other feedback is available in the chat window.
I think I've answered Shamir sir's question, and manage length of number filed text box. You have to give specify the type as number, and you can specify the minimum field and maximum field to constrain it, sir. Also, you have another attribute step there. If it is if you are passing step as 2, you can increment the values that that can be entered in multiples of 2. Similarly, you can constrain the length of text box.
Any other questions? I hope that everyone has understood today's concept. So I thank the resource person, Ms. Anisha ma'am. She gave a very good demonstration on JavaScript as well as some concepts in jQuery. So really it's a very helpful and also a very good hands-on session. Thank you ma'am for your wonderful presentation. And thank all the participants for your responses. And also I thank the coordinator, Dr. R.P. Antokma sir, and the event organizers, Mr. C.M. Varun, Bright Jose, and also Anthony sir. Thank you, participants. And one important announcement, tomorrow we have the session from 2 to 4. So kindly join with us. Due to our inconvenience, we are changing the time from morning to afternoon session. So the timing is from 2 to 4 o'clock. If you fill the feedback, you can leave the session.